We're nearing the end of our winter sports, but that's not going to stop us from another episode of Jacket Sports Weekly.
Jacket Sports Weekly, where you can find everything Waynesburg University sports. Tune in every week to our panel as they take a deep dive into Waynesburg sports. We cover everything from football.
Turning around is Isaac Trout. Did he get the feet down? We will wait for the mark. And they call it a touchdown.
To basketball.
Ball. Got it! We're all tied up!
To softball.
Max this one. Left field. Kiss it goodbye!
Stay up to date with all your favorite Waynesburg University sports with us at Jacket Sports Weekly.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for the opening segment here on Jacket Sports Weekly. It's your usual two hosts, Logan Lepiscopo, and my main man, my good friend, my schoolmate, my brother, I will say, Seth Adams. I looked up the synonyms. I had to.
Yeah, we looked up before. I said chum. I like chum.
Chum. Reminds me of Chum Bucket from SpongeBob, so that's why I didn't go that route.
But
But our winter athletics are slowly coming to an end.
Yeah.
Let's talk about this Waynesburg wrestling team. They just had the PAC Championships, and they placed it very well.
yeah,
here.
and we were there.
we
Waynesburg
were.
University Sports Network.
Wearing it.
Yo, yeah, right here. Right here, look, that's us. We were there, and we were able to broadcast the whole thing. I believe it was a 6-hour stream. So props to everyone who was there and did a great job. I know TA, who was behind camera right now, did a great job on graphics. We were all on camera doing stuff like that. But 5 of our guys made it to the finals, and that being Jesse Orban, Cole Hammett, Aiden Bischoff, Kobe Morris, and Jacob Wilson. Those guys, we'll get more into that with Jay later and how they did, but for 5 of them to make it to the finals is great enough as it is. But some third place wins, Andrew Johnson, Seth Evans, and Kyle Heinerman. Just an all-around good day from the Waynesburg Yellow Jackets.
Yeah, definitely can't have any complaints. Obviously, some of the individuals may be down on themselves, not bringing home that PAC title, but nonetheless, it was a great showing for Waynesburg. Now, let's move over to the hardwoods as the basketball seasons are coming to a close. I like putting that in every time. From the mats to the hardwoods. Let's talk about the women's basketball team.
Yeah.
They ended their season very well off. They beat Franciscan, beat Teal to finish with 6 wins on the season.
Yeah, great way to end, man. And I was talking to Sam Jones. I was at Franciscan actually on Wednesday with Tyler Zeman. Shout out Tyler Zeman. Had 2 nosebleeds. Regardless, we're here. All right. But I was able to talk to Sam Jones. He said he was very proud of how they'd done. And with Teal coming up on that Saturday, it was something he was really looking forward to. And they beat Franciscan 88-47. Beat Teal 91-53. An outstanding performance from the seniors. We'll get more into that later. But to finish the season off with those 2 tremendous wins, I'd say. Very foundation setting for next year.
Absolutely. And we'll talk about that foundation setting that Waynesburg has with Joey Chirillo on the women's side of things. Now the men. I'm wearing black for a reason. The Waynesburg University Sports Network. We're busting out in all black for the home playoff game that the men's basketball team was able to achieve. They ended the season off right with 2 wins as well, beating Franciscan, and just a cherry on top of getting that PAC home game with a win over Teal.
Yeah, I got my bracket right here. I know it might be hard to see, but listen, this team right here, it's Waynesburg. Call me delusional, I don't care. That's who I got in the PAC final and winning it all. But
You're just a hardcore fan.
I am, okay? I got it all over me. But regardless, I think they had a great outing, especially against Franciscan. 82-80 lead with 11 seconds left. Miss a free throw, they go down. Sawyer Butler, who has had an outstanding game for Franciscan, he had 26 points, misses the buzzer beater 3. Waynesburg takes home the win, 84-80. They got some free throws after that. But, man, what an outstanding game. And then Teal, like you said, was just the cherry on top. Just added to the extra confidence booster, I would say, in getting another win to go into the postseason with full confidence.
And Grove City is the team that will meet Waynesburg in the Rudy Mercer Fieldhouse for the 3rd time this season. Waynesburg got the better of them the first 2 times. See if they can complete the sweep 3-0. But to round things off for our winter sports, PAC Indoor Track and Field for the women's and men's side of things will have their championships. That is Thursday at Youngstown State University. But that's going to do it for our opening segment here on Jacket Sports Weekly. When we come back, we'll sit down with Jay Lewis and talk about the wrestling team.
Have you ever wondered what the life of a Yellow Jacket newspaper looks like? Why don't we show you?
Straight from the printing press to our editor's desk into the newsstands, you can pick up your own copy of the Yellow Jacket newspaper in Buell Hall, the Stover Campus Center, or any of our other newsstand locations on campus. When you get your very own copy, you can read it at your own leisure anywhere around Waynesburg. You can kill time waiting for your next class to start by reading up on campus news and our op-ed pieces. You can even take your copy to the Beehive and catch up with friends as you read up on the latest regional stories. Looking for a peaceful place to read now? Head on over to the Everly Library. Sit back, relax, and catch up on the latest in Waynesburg sports. Oh, and if you didn't know, we are also digital at theyellowjacket.org.
Welcome back to our first segment here on Jacket Sports Weekly. Still the two hosts up here, Logan Lepiscopo, Seth Adams. We're joined by the first ever time on WCTV, Jacket Sports Weekly, Jay Lewis. Jay, first of all, how you doing today, man?
Good, man. Good. And y'all?
Good. Oh, great.
I'm
You know,
great.
couldn't be nowhere else I'd rather be. Right?
Especially on a Monday.
Especially
Where else
on
would
a
you
Monday.
be on
We're
a
here
Monday?
every Monday.
Good old Monday.
Good old Monday.
So let's talk about this PAC Wrestling Championships that just passed. Let's just do an overall perspective. 5 guys made it to that final round. Talk about, who took what place in the tournament.
Well, we have starting off with Cole Hammett, 149, a freshman. Took second as a freshman, a big accomplishment. Then we have Kobe Martins, the favorite senior. Everybody loves him. 174, as a senior, took first place. Then we have another freshman, Jacob Wilson, 165, took second as a freshman. Then we have Aiden Bischoff, 197, took first place as a junior. Then we have Justin Arbin, who took second place as a freshman. And then third place finishers, we have Andrew Johnson at 141, who took third place, Seth Evans at 157, and then Kyle Heimerman at 174. It was a good day. Starting preseason, they had the Jackets tied third with St. Vincent. And then they took third overall as a team score. And then of individual awards, Kyle Heimerman, a senior, took the sportsmanship team. He took that award home. It's a big accomplishment for a senior, It's his last PAC,
Right.
And the Jackets started off on a bad note, They didn't have everybody at every weight. So it was an issue. And you can enter up to 2 people per weight class. So that was a big deal. And they still found a way to win matches.
And Aiden Bischoff, huge overtime win. Can you just kind of break it down for us how that went down for him?
I mean, Aiden, at the beginning of the tip-off, he was locked in, just had his focus. And then he just went out there and executed, running through competition. And then that overtime win means so much to him. Going in as a junior, next year going into his senior year, he have Kobe leaving, and then there's another Kyle leaving, so he has to step up in that leadership role, and I feel like he did that with the PAC's win.
So we look at, obviously, you mentioned Colby, Kyle leaving, but in terms of a next season perspective for this Yellow Jackets team, obviously there are still the Southeast Regionals and Nationals that are to come, but in terms of the future of this wrestling team, where do you see them being ranked? And next year, maybe 2 years from now, you mentioned how they were tied for third with St. Vincent. Yeah. Where do you expect this team to maybe be next year in a couple years?
I mean, they can take home first. It's pretty simple like that. They can take home first. If they have their rosters, the full roster, they was missing a heavyweight at 125 and a 33. So not everybody's there. But when they get everybody there, the freshman has potential. This is the first time they had 5 freshmen place, in the first time in school history. And most of the freshmen went to the finals. Jesse at 184, Jacob Wilson, and Cole Hammett. That's a big deal in the campus. And although they did not win, but they're going on to regionals, So it's a pretty big deal, and possibly at nationals.
Jesse Orban, he's, like you said, freshman, made it all the way to the finals, had an outstanding run, but just came up short, losing in overtime, 4-1. Now, mentally, that's a tough loss just on anybody in general, but how does he bounce back and forget about something like that, especially just as a freshman, you got so much ahead of you?
I mean, as a freshman, I feel like he should just focus on the big idea. It's only my first year and I'm making it to the regionals. Not a lot of freshmen had that opportunity. And he made it to the final. And the person he wrestled was a senior, It's a pretty big deal, a freshman going up against a senior. And he took him to overtime. In wrestling, you most likely think seniors are going to beat the freshmen. But no, he took them all 3 periods and then an extra period. So he should be huge, proud of himself,
So upcoming March 1st, this wrestling team will head to the NCAA Division III Southeast Regional Championships at Lycoming College. You talked about how a couple guys will be going, and maybe not a lot of people are familiar with how these Southeast regionals work. So could you maybe explain how many wrestlers will go for Waynesburg and maybe who to look out for to place in that top 3 and make it to the Nationals?
It's not everybody on the roster can go to the Southeast tournament. It's only starters, and it's top 3 from each bracket. So if you place 3rd, 2nd, or 1st, you can go into regionals. And to be on the lookout, I'd pretty say Aiden. He made a big impact. Everybody knows Kobe Morris is going to try to make a run at Nationals. But Aiden, with that first play win as a junior, he's going to be he's going to have a very impact on the regional tournament, because he's going to have a good seeding for the first year. So we should be on the lookout on Aiden. Jesse, of course, and Cole and Jacob Wilson, the 3 freshmen, they should be up on the rise, starting up trouble in the region.
Well, Jay, thank you very much for joining us up here talking about the wrestling team. Your debut on WCTV, we hope to see you more up here on the panel or any of our other shows on WCTV. But that's going to do it for our opening segment with our analysts. We'll be right back with our second analyst for the women's basketball side of things, Joey Chirillo.
Welcome to the Eberly Library, where you can find out everything about anything on campus. Through the double doors, you'll enter a world of knowledge and academic resources. These include the Knox Learning Center, where the Disability Services Office and testing centers are located, and the Writing Center, where students can work directly with our tutors in order to hone their essay skills and get easy A's. And now, to the print collection, which houses over 75,000 books spanning across all 3 of our floors. And if you're looking for truly a peaceful place to read, we also have the Stover Center for Constitutional Studies, with various nooks and crannies for students to hide away in with a good book. And if you need us to print out something for your next class, head on to the 3rd floor at the Eberly Library.
Welcome back to Jacket Sports Weekly. And we're going to the hardwoods. I stole your line, but we're going to the hardwoods. Women's basketball to start us off with Joey Chirillo. Now, thank you so much for joining, Joey, as always.
Thank you.
Let's get right into it. Had a very successful 2 last games. But let's talk about Franciscan a little bit. Just give us a little bit of a breakdown of how successful that game was.
Well, it was very successful. I called it. I said last week, Franciscan's going to be a win. And I was like, Franciscan will be a win. Teal is a toss-up, but luckily they pulled out the win. But let's focus on Franciscan. 88-47 win. Mia Hankins having 15 points, 5 of 7 threes for her. And then for Kara McFadden, had 15 points as well, 5 for 5 threes. And over the entire night, they were 18 and 27 in threes. So just the three-point shooting was on mark for this team.
67%.
67.
That's some quick math there.
I definitely didn't write that down. No.
Okay, yeah.
But then that brought them to 5 wins on the season and 4 wins within the conference. So it was looking good ending the season-wise if they didn't get the Teal win, which they did. But even if they didn't, it still looked good having this big win, especially outside of the three-point arc.
Well, Joey, I'm glad you mentioned the Teal game. The Teal game was a 38-point victory for the Lady Jays, and it seemed like the three-point shot continued from that Franciscan game right over back to the Rudy for the Teal game. But it wasn't Mia Hankins, it wasn't Kara McFadden, it was Anika Dansby, who was 2 for 30 coming into that game, shooting from 3, and she nailed so many of them in that match.
Yeah, she nailed 4 three-pointers on the evening and had a career-high points of 22 points. You cannot argue with that, especially on your senior day, as this is going to be the last game she will ever play, most likely in a collegiate game, but definitely in a Waynesburg Yellow Jacket jersey. So it was definitely a great win for her. And as well with Marley Wolf, another senior on the team, having a season best of 15 points, both of them having only 20 minutes in the game. So they only played a first half of basketball. They didn't really play a lot, but they still had great points, great momentum for this entire team overall, and it felt really good. They had 30 points, the entire team, 30 points in the first quarter. That might be the best first quarter we have seen from the Lady Jays so far in this season. And then 56 team rebounds. 56! I saw that when I was doing my research. I was like, no, that's crazy. That's so cool. So that was just a fun little nugget I found. I was like, I'm throwing that out.
So you said it, momentum. Mm-hmm. That's a weird word here.
It's a
Depends who you ask.
Regardless, I'm going to say it. Do you think that these final 2 wins is the momentum that they needed to go into this offseason and have an even better year next year?
I think it is. And I think although that you were senior-led with Dansby and Wolf in your last game, it still is a good key game that you're thinking about when you're entering next season, when you're entering this off season here, and that you're looking at it as, okay, who were the main key factors on why this season was 3 times as better as they were last year? Last year they only had 2 wins. This year we had 6. It was a lot better to
triple the wins.
Exactly. Triple the wins. You can't argue with that. But Calissa Friday leading the team in 211 points this season. Mia Hankins having 183 and second place. And then in third, Jules Moorbacher with 158. It's a young team. It's definitely looking bright for our future here that we have. And it's one of those things that you like to see, especially with these last 2 wins, going in with that momentum. It's just something that's really fun to see, especially with this young team, and then the incoming freshmen that'll come with it. It's just something, as long as we build, as long as we have leaders on this squad, which so far this season we definitely will have those leaders, I think next season is going to be a great one.
Well, you mentioned the incoming freshmen that would make part of Sam Jones' roster for next year. What do you think head coach Sam Jones should look for in this recruiting class? Because you're losing Anika Dansby, you're losing Marley Wolf, but you have guards to replace them already in Mia Hankins and Kara McFadden. Where do you think this team needs to adjust to move into next season?
I think they need to find someone to help Jules down in the paint as well. Jules is having a good turnaround season so far. In the early bits of the season, she wasn't really starting, but in the last bits, she was, which was nice to see. But then we also had Tori Wesolowski, who was doing good, but not great over the season. So I think just finding another person that can get in there and be aggressive and be good down in the paint there will be helpful. And then maybe finding a guard to help Mia Hankins out if she's ever down, if she ever needs some help. Sometimes games just don't go your way. So if they need someone to just go in, because they had Dansby and Mia going back and forth. So as long as you find someone that still has good momentum, good energy, just like Hankins, it'll go well.
So let's do this. All right, end of the season. We'll wrap it up.
All right, here we go.
Way too early future predictions for next year. How do you think this team is going to do? Are they going to be at that 500 mark? Are they going to be just below it? Are they going to exceed it?
See, I don't think they'll exceed it. Going 6-19 on the season, being one of Coach Jones's better seasons as of late, and he's been on the losing side of seasons so far. It's been one of those things that it's good to see, but I think they'll do better. I think maybe we'll get to 7, 8, maybe even 9 wins. That 500 mark, that 50% mark, that we might get there, but I think we'll do better. But I don't think we're going to go any drastic measures quite yet.
So the way this team is kind of set up is it's living and dying by the 3 ball, as you mentioned, in the Franciscan game, in the Teal game, even with Anika Dansby. Do you think the team should stick to its guns moving forward and stick with shooting behind that 3-point line? Or do you think they should try and, as you mentioned, help Jules out, help Kayla Howard out, and get a taller paint presence for next year and obviously an incoming freshman be the next 4 years?
Well, if you asked Joey from earlier in the season when we were on here talking earlier, I would say, no, you need to stick to the paint. You need to stick to doing those just easy layups and stuff. But in these last 2 games, having great 3-point percentages from the seniors who unfortunately will be leaving this team, but then the freshmen on this team as well, I say stick to it at this point. You're exiting the season with great 3-point percentages. You can't argue that. I say if the team works on it more, if we have leaders like Hankins and Friday and McFadden helping this team get better at that 3-point percentage, and then also helping maybe with some jump shots as well, I think it'll lead to just fire away.
Well, thank you so much, Joey, for coming on to talk about women's basketball. You've been here all season, so thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for letting me wrap it up.
And we really appreciate it. But just a little bit of a recap. The women finished 6-19 overall, 5-15 in the conference, and 9th in the PAC. But don't go anywhere. We're going to stick with the hoops. We'll see you on men's basketball.
Sports information and athletic communication majors here at Waynesburg University take on the responsibilities of the pros. As a sports information athletic communication major, you'll take on tasks such as talking to coaches, public address announcing, tracking and spotting live stats, as well as running those stats to the TV and radio announcers and keeping the crowd occupied with the live video board. We have alum currently working for the Washington Wild Things, Akron Rubber Ducks, the Miami Dolphins, and numerous Division I programs. So what are you waiting for? Come here and join us at Woo.
Welcome back to Jacket Sports Weekly, where we have Michael McKenzie here to talk about, are you going to catch it?
Catch the pass.
Talk about men's hoops. Now, we made the playoffs.
There we go. You had a lot of arc on the pass. Sorry, it works.
We made the playoffs, 4th seed, home. It's at home for the first time in front of fans since 2014-2015 season. We made it back in 2020. 2021, no fans were there. Grove City. Just give us a little bit of a breakdown of your thoughts on all of it, just in general.
So it's obviously a season that not a lot of people expected from Waynesburg in a good way. They were picked to finish 9th in the PAC men's basketball preseason poll. They're 4th. They've got a home game against Grove City. And coincidentally, the last time they had that home playoff game, back in the 2014-2015 season, they hosted Grove City. So history kind of repeating itself here. They're hosting Grove City yet again. Now, obviously, people like to say in sports, it's tough to beat a team 3 times in one season. And I absolutely believe that that's true. But I think that this is a matchup that favors Waynesburg. It was a matchup that happened 2 times earlier this season that Waynesburg really dominated in both matchups, especially the one that happened a couple of weeks ago, February 7th, at the Rudy Marisa Fieldhouse. Waynesburg winning that game 61-43, just domination across the board. We'll get into keys to victory against Grove City a little later in the segment, but it's nice to have a home playoff game, first time in not exactly 10 years, but nearly 10 years, and it's against the same team that they played the last time they had a home playoff game, at least in front of fans at the Rudy Marisa Fieldhouse.
So let's take a little bit of a step back from playing Grove City, obviously coming up. The final 2 games ended with wins, Franciscan and Teal. And I want to put out personally, I feel like that Teal game showed probably some of the best defense that we had seen all season. Obviously, take that Grove City game you just referred to and put that into the mix. But the Teal game, they held Elijah Harden, one of the better players in the President's Athletic Conference, to a awful night shooting. One of his worst shooting performances of the season. Talk a little bit about that Teal game that Seth and I mentioned on the opening segment. It was kind of a little cherry on top to finishing off with the home playoff game.
Yeah, for sure. And that was a game I feel like Waynesburg came into that. They lost to Teal earlier in the season. One of the things that they wanted to do was knock Teal out of the playoffs themselves. They had a scenario where they could have made it if they won, and I believe it was Westminster had to lose for Teal to make it into the playoffs. Westminster ended up losing, but unfortunately for Teal, they ran into the brick wall that is the Waynesburg Yellow Jackets men's basketball team. And again, that defensive performance against Elijah Harden and Ethan Barnes, 2 of the better scorers on this team, was very impressive. Forced them to take tough shots, made life miserable for them in terms of trying to get open, off-ball screens, off-ball movement and stuff like that. It was tough for them to get screens, like a ball's on the right wing, you're trying to come off of a screen, top of the key to get a pass. Waynesburg did a really good job hedging screens, fighting through screens, and making it tough to get open off the ball for both Harden and Barnes, and they made it tough for them trying to move the basketball, trying to get to the lane and get to the rim. There were a couple times where Barnes and Harden were able to do that, but not very often, not as much as they would like, and it forced them to have to take tough, contested shots, and it forced the inefficient shooting night from Teal, and then resulted in the Waynesburg win, obviously, by 11 points.
All right, let's go back to the playoffs, all right? What does this team need to do to have an efficient run and get deeper into the playoffs and not be a first-round exit?
I think there's 3 keys to victory, specifically in this Grove City game. One I want to focus on is embrace physicality, especially that Teal game, but the last 2 games. Very physical contest for Waynesburg. They want to get down and dirty. They want to control the boards. They want to control points in the paint. They want to get physical. Even if it might get them into foul trouble a little bit, they want to get to the rim, force fouls on the other team, force free throws that they get to take. And they haven't been a hot free throw shooting team this season, but they've gradually gotten better as the season has gotten on. But, embracing the physicality, embracing that your style of play is a few extra bumps, a few extra hits, and maybe a few extra fouls. But you got to embrace that you want to get down and dirty. You want to be diving on the floor for loose balls. You want to be trapping guys in the corner when they get the basketball. You want to make it tough for people to back you down and get shots in the post, things like that. You want to embrace physicality. Those 2 words are a very key part to Waynesburg being able to not only beat Grove City, but potentially make a run in these playoffs, because as it is in any playoffs, all you need is a ticket to the dance and anything can happen.
Absolutely. And you mentioned... you like that? The ticket to the dance, you like that? So you mentioned how making a run in this tournament. In this tournament, it is a Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday. That is how the games are scheduled. First round Tuesday, second round Thursday, and then the championship on Saturday. So, Mike, how can the team kind of get into the mold of this schedule? Because they've been going usually Saturday, Wednesday. That's what the typical week of a season is. How do they adjust to only having one day to prepare for a team, and then boom, Thursday night, they have their next opponent?
I think with this Grove City game, they've got a couple extra days to prepare, so you can prepare a game plan specifically tailored to beat Grove City. But if you're able to beat Grove City and play a couple days later on that Thursday, just one day in between to prepare, I don't think that practices are going to be necessarily full go, 100%, give it everything you've got, maybe more so of a rest practice. But I think that if you get to a Thursday game and forbid maybe they make the Saturday championship game, the game plans and keys to victory are more so tailored to what Waynesburg likes to do best. Not necessarily tailored to stopping an opponent, like stopping potentially either a Geneva or a St. Vincent, depending on who they play on Thursday, if they're able to beat Grove City, and then whatever would happen on Saturday, if they can pull off an upset on Thursday and make it that far. You got to tailor your game plan more to your strengths. And even though I'm talking about, embracing physicality, controlling the paint and those things, doing things that you've done all season and you're good at against Grove City, that's even more so the case going against a higher seed on Thursday, or even, again, potentially that Saturday championship game. And I think another thing is you're going to have to hope Anton Baker shows up. Specifically against Grove City, averages 22.5 points per game and 11 rebounds per game against Grove City. But in the big games, he's been the one to show up. In your biggest wins, he's been the one to show up. It cannot be any different this upcoming Tuesday and potentially further in the PAC playoffs.
You mentioned the scenarios, and there were lots of different types of scenarios that we saw from whatever teams were playing. Bethany, Westminster, Grove City, Teal was in there as well. Yeah. So we're playing Grove City. Is that the best option you think that this Waynesburg team would be playing this Tuesday?
Specifically based on how the teams match up with each other, I'd say Grove City was the best out of the two teams they could have faced. They could have faced either Westminster or Grove City. They swept Grove City pretty convincingly this season. Their two games against Westminster came down to the wire, lost on a buzzer beater against Westminster when they traveled down to their place earlier in the season, and then when Westminster came to the Rudy Marisa Fieldhouse, it was a late Anton Baker jumper and block sequence that gave them a close win there as well. Grove City, a couple more convincing wins. A team that I think Waynesburg can easily implement their preferred style of basketball against, and Grove City isn't going to have an easy time against the Yellow Jackets. I mean, tough time those two times that they played Waynesburg earlier in the season, and specifically their top scorer, Yarborough. He had a pretty solid game when they came to the Rudy Marisa Fieldhouse, but they shut everybody else down. Grove City, I should say, is not able to get much offense at all against Waynesburg, and Waynesburg's able to expose different things in Grove City's defense, let Anton Baker and Jalen Davis in particular go to work in the paint. I believe they've outscored Grove City 62-46 in the paint over those two games. So letting Baker and Davis go to work and being able to shut down Yarborough, they've done it twice already. I see no reason to think that they can't do it a third time against Grove City at the Rudy Marisa Fieldhouse first round playoff game.
Well, Michael McKenzie, thank you for coming up here. We'll have the
great
season all wrapped up regardless of the results on our next episode of Jacket Sports Weekly. But again, Mike, thank you again for joining us up here today.
Absolutely. It's always a fun time here.
We'll see the results come next Monday when we're recording, and next Tuesday when you see another episode of Jacket Sports Weekly.
This has been a production of Waynesburg Community Television.